The Age of Magical Overthinking examines how people today are struggling with mental health and how cognitive biases affect us all. Amanda Montell, a best-selling author, details a wide range of cognitive biases, from confirmation bias to the zero-sum effect. These biases explain the irrational behaviors in celebrity worship that are so prevalent today. Montell explores the rise of dubious mental health influencers and their spiritual pseudopsychology, the impact of social media, the allure of conspiracy theories, and the role of nostalgia in coping with modern anxieties. Understanding cognitive biases can help us navigate our complex contemporary life, finding peace and reason. Modern struggles. While the 1960s and 70s focused on physical freedoms, today's struggles are internal. Mental health has declined, with rising suicide rates and increased crisis calls. Cognitive biases are mental shortcuts that our ancestors used to survive. However, these shortcuts are now overwhelmed by information overload. Our technological advancements have made us believe everything is knowable. This phenomenon is part of what Amanda Montell calls the age of magical overthinking. Magical thinking, the belief that thoughts can affect reality, clashes with modern overthinking. Understanding cognitive biases can help us manage mental noise and navigate the age of magical overthinking. The halo effect. Worship has become ravenous, not for gods, but for human celebrities. The name for these new extremists, stans, originated from Eminem's song Stan, blending stalker and fan. Stans have names such as Swifties. Critics fear publishing negative reviews due to threats of being canceled or doxxed, having their home addresses leaked. Stans, powerless alone, can collectively attack like a mob. They even turn on their idols. In 2023, a Taylor Swift fan named Amy Long sent Montell a document detailing 5 years' worth of Stan scandals. The Stans went ballistic whenever Swift didn't meet their political or personal expectations. This behavior is explained by the halo effect, a cognitive bias where recognizing one positive trait about a person leads to positive assumptions about everything else. Historically, aligning with strong or attractive people was adaptive. Today, it helps in identity formation. The halo effect makes it easy to deify someone. Parental figures were the original subjects of the halo effect. Montell's mother, Dr. Denise Montell, a renowned cancer cell biologist, exemplified this. Denise's achievements and near-mythical presence made her seem infallible. Montell delighted in catching her mother's rare imperfections, but she was also appalled by any out-of-character behavior. Celebrity worship has grown, with studies showing increased admiration for singers, athletes, and other media stars. The halo effect makes it easy to idolize celebrities. This worship has measurable negative consequences, including stalking, addiction, and even criminality. Modern fandom ranges from healthy admiration to pathological mania. Studies categorize celebrity worship into levels, from casual discussion to intense personal feelings and borderline pathological behaviors, including delusional thoughts and self-sacrifice. The celebrity halo effect can elevate stars to a point where their humanity is lost, turning them into mascots. Charli XCX's fans, particularly white gay men, have bullied and objectified her, treating her more like a prop than a person. They forced her to sign inappropriate items and criticized her music harshly. This behavior reflects a deeper issue of insecure attachments and emotional deficits, which leads fans to fixate on celebrities. Swift's musical eras create a cinematic universe for fans to immerse in, often filling gaps left by real-life relationships. However, studies show that admiring people you actually know boosts your self-esteem, while idolizing celebrities can lower your confidence. Worship dehumanizes, setting up both stars and fans for suffering. True connection and empathy in actual personal relationships can humanize and alleviate pressure. Proportionality bias. Montell once believed in conspiracy theories, thinking the universe was against her. Proportionality bias makes people think big events have big causes. It explains the popularity of the manifestation doctor and similar figures on Instagram. Once a licensed psychologist, she now promotes holistic self-empowerment and offers advice on how to regulate your nervous system without pharmaceuticals through social media. The manifestation doctor's rise to fame during the pandemic reflects a broader trend.
Many people, unable to access traditional therapy, turn to online influencers for mental health advice. These influencers offer simple, absolutist advice that can sometimes worsen anxieties.
The manifestation doctor's message is essentially a modern conspiracy theory. It suggests that traditional therapy and medications keep people unwell, but self-healing can fix everything. This idea appeals to many. It was especially popular during the mental health crisis of the early 2020s. With traditional therapists either too expensive or overbooked, people sought easier solutions online. Conspiracy theories offer satisfying explanations for confusing events. Proportionality bias makes people prefer dramatic explanations over mundane ones. This bias is why some believe in grand conspiracies like COVID-19 being manufactured. It also explains why people turn to influencers who offer simple solutions to complex problems. During the early 2020s, many holistic wellness brands capitalized on this bias. These influencers often lack formal qualifications, but attract large followings with their simple, empowering messages. They blend mysticism with scientific-sounding terms, making their advice feel both spiritual and medical. This trend reflects a shift in how people seek mental health support, moving away from traditional therapy towards more accessible, though sometimes misleading, online advice. The tendency to use spiritual ideas to explain complex problems is known as spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing dissuades people from seeking medical attention by explaining away complicated problems with metaphysical beliefs. This makes psychologists work harder. Dr. Surajee Wagage, a clinical psychologist, notes that treating OCD, PTSD, and depression is more challenging when clients come with inaccurate stereotypes. Social media accounts related to mental health can establish a guru-like power dynamic, which can result in psychological dependence on the content creator. This makes it harder for people to think for themselves. The manifestation doctor took inspiration from Kelly Brogan, who was named one of the Disinformation Dozen by the nonprofit Digital Hate for spreading vaccine misinformation. Brogan falsely claimed that coffee enemas treat depression and that infectious diseases are caused by mental illness. The manifestation doctor also supported alt-right extremists like Sean Whalen, who promoted real masculinity as a prevention against COVID. His clothing brand offered t-shirts that proclaimed, "Give violence a chance." Influencers can crack faith in a person's foundational ideas, leading to radical conspiracism. Between 9/11s and COVID-19, paranoia spread in America. MIT found that false stories spread faster on Twitter than true ones. Anxiety perpetuates paranoid thinking. Social media therapists with pure intentions exist, but some experts still are concerned about mixing brain health and brand building without checks and balances. Dr. Aaron Weiner, a psychologist, noted that malpractice in behavioral health is a hazy concept, making it tough to strip someone of their license for harmful advice. Alternative mental health influencers are attractive because they generally mean well and are right about some things. However, beliefs about influencing outcomes can lead to conspiratorial thinking. The universe isn't for or against us. It's simply neutral. The sunk cost fallacy. People often stay in miserable partnerships due to trauma, low self-esteem, fear of retaliation, or the sunk cost fallacy, the belief that invested resources justify further investment. This explains why Montell staying in a harmful relationship for 7 years made sense at the time. At age 18, Montell met Mr. Backpack, a 29-year-old who was her best friend's older brother. Texts and phone calls led to their romantic involvement. Despite red flags, including his negative talk about ex-girlfriends and violent outbursts, she stayed with him, believing in the potential for happiness. Montell moved to Los Angeles to be with him, sacrificing her dreams of living in New York. Their relationship was marked by manipulation and emotional abuse, but she convinced herself that enduring the pain was necessary. It wasn't until she was 25 that she left him. People stay in bad situations to avoid admitting they made a mistake. This bias is tied to loss aversion, the fear of facing defeat. Ryan Duty, a Brown University professor, argued that honoring sunk costs might make us seem more consistent and socially valuable. In a judgmental society, people feel pressured to appear as though they always make good decisions. This pressure can lead to staying in harmful situations longer than necessary. People often want others to see a perfect version of themselves and believe it too. Duty suggested that sticking to sunk costs can help create a more favorable story about ourselves, hiding any flaws. This desire to be seen positively is deeply rooted in everyone. Many societal factors trap people in toxic relationships, including pro-marriage policies, cultural stereotypes, and rigid gender standards. Romantic movies and many religions discourage leaving a partner. Breakups are often seen as failures, even though staying in a harmful relationship is worse. Regret is common, and acknowledging it can help us move forward. Past choices don't make us foolish. They show a hopeful person wanting a beautiful story. A study showed that people prefer adding solutions to removing obstacles, which can trap them in bad situations. Sometimes removing something is the key to happiness. Consumerism makes people believe they need to add things to solve problems. Reflecting on past relationships can bring clarity and gratitude for personal growth. Zero-sum bias. Montell didn't choose to work in the beauty industry. It found her during the post-2008 recession. After 9 months of job hunting, she landed a job writing reviews of cosmetics. She had hoped to work for feminist outlets or newsrooms, but found entry-level literary positions scarce in Los Angeles. Promoting unnecessary beauty products wasn't Montell's dream, but she was drawn into the world of beauty treatments and trends. She wanted to fit in. Within 3 years, she was heavily invested in beauty treatments and products, spending significant money and time on her appearance. The mid-2010s beauty standards were impossible. She felt conflicted about promoting beauty while questioning its necessity. Montell reassured herself that her beauty efforts were just a job, not her true self, but Instagram intensified her feelings of inadequacy. She felt pressure to grow her following, leading to constant comparisons with others. She felt that their success diminished her own, which was a classic example of zero-sum bias. This mentality is rooted in resource competition. Montell eventually quit the beauty industry, hoping to escape comparison. However, her Instagram feed adjusted to show successful writers, leading to new comparisons. Social media makes it hard to see win-win scenarios. Women are especially prone to upward comparisons, noticing only those they perceive as superior. This tendency starts early and affects self-esteem. A 2021 study from Southwest University in China found that teenagers with TikTok overuse disorder experienced increased anxiety, depression, stress, and memory issues. Instagram and TikTok's addictive features, perfectionistic filters, and curated highlights disproportionately harm young women psychologically. Users often retaliate by attacking others online rather than the apps themselves. Social comparison is instinctive and helps in identity formation. However, social media's constant presence makes it hard to orient ourselves. Recognizing others' different thoughts and feelings is crucial for harmonious relationships. Psychologists note that this ability develops in early childhood and is linked to a well-functioning frontal lobe. Excessive social media use can hinder this development. Survivorship bias. In 2017, Montell wrote for Marie Claire magazine about young adults with severe illnesses who vlog their lives on YouTube. She discovered Courtney, a preschool teacher who documented her journey from health to battling a brain tumor. There were many more like Courtney. Talia Joy Castellano, a beauty YouTuber with neuroblastoma, inspired many with her positive attitude despite her illness. Sophia Gall, diagnosed with osteosarcoma, and Claire Wineland, a cystic fibrosis patient, gained large audiences. These vloggers used YouTube to cope with their illnesses and connect with others. They showed the reality of death and the value of their experiences, even when they did not have miraculous recoveries. YouTube allowed them to leave a legacy for family and followers. Rashali, diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, started vlogging to update her friends and family. Her positive outlook became her signature, but she later felt conflicted about portraying her cancer journey so optimistically. Survivorship bias made some viewers believe her survival was due to her positivity, ignoring those who didn't survive despite doing everything right. Survivorship bias affects many areas, including business and fitness, by focusing on successes and ignoring failures. Mary, diagnosed with Ewing's sarcoma, used YouTube to gain agency and cope with her illness. Her videos helped viewers put their problems into perspective. Mental health experts agree that following these vlogs can be a healthier use of social media, as they force followers to look beyond their own circumstances. These vlogs can challenge survivorship bias by preserving raw, self-authored sketches of day-to-day illness. Such videos challenge the media's inspiration porn that shows people overcoming severe health issues with sheer willpower. Most Americans with disabilities lack support, regardless of their determination. A 2015 study found that people with physical disabilities are 75% less likely to have their medical needs met. Terminal cancer patients rarely make miraculous recoveries due to positive attitudes. Survivorship bias creates false success-failure narratives, like stories of tech CEOs who dropped out of college to become billionaires. In reality, 84% of top billionaires graduated from college. Survivorship bias misinterprets cause and effect, similar to conspiracy theories. Viewers often expect real lives to follow a movie-like plot, leading to frustration when they don't. Optimism can improve health, but it doesn't cure diseases. Therapist Minna B. suggests creating optimism through pleasurable changes within our daily responsibilities to find meaning and purpose. The Recency Illusion. On May 16, 2021, a former Army intelligence officer warned America about UFOs on 60 Minutes. Montell and her partner Casey watched, captivated by the idea that UFOs could be real. The correspondent discussed the U.S. government's acknowledgement of unidentified aerial phenomena UAP, featuring ex-Navy pilots and Air Force officers who described mysterious hovercrafts off the coast of Virginia. The Pentagon was ordered to release unclassified UAP documents, making them available online. The Recency Illusion makes us think something is new and threatening just because it's new to us. This bias explains why people react strongly to new-sounding words or grammatical constructions, even if they've existed for centuries. The UFO story provided a unifying fear amid the pandemic. It was a whimsical distraction, sparking people's imaginations about aliens and their intentions. However, the public quickly moved on to other news. The Recency Illusion likely stems from our evolutionary need to be alert to new threats. Modern stimuli are more conceptual, making it harder to know what deserves our attention. Digital news and the Recency Illusion distort our ability to discern what's truly important. Online media outlets frame events as urgent to capture attention, causing stress. News algorithms personalize content, keeping us focused on potential new disasters. The digital media industry relies on the Recency Illusion. 5 years before the UAP news, in the summer of 2016, many people were focused on protests and fundraising after the Pulse nightclub tragedy in Orlando, Florida. By autumn, the intense outrage had faded, and social media returned to selfies and brunch pics. This shift isn't due to a lack of caring. Brain scientist Sekol Krastov explains that our nervous systems can't sustain constant agitation, especially when changes don't happen quickly. Psychotherapist Minna B. adds that our brains need positive feedback to avoid staying in survival mode. The Recency Illusion makes us see the world in extremes, which isn't helpful and can worsen anxiety and depression. A 2019 study by the Technical University of Denmark found that attention spans have shrunk globally due to the sheer amount of information available. This cognitive exhaustion, along with our attraction to newness, causes us to quickly switch topics. Some people can't redirect their attention because the previous issue is still an emergency for them. We must remember that our attention isn't always the best measure of what's important. Peter Drucker, a business leader, created a time-meaning matrix to help reconcile time and meaning. Tasks can be urgent, important, both, or neither. For example, reading the news is important but not always urgent. Social media drama feels urgent but isn't important. Most hourly problems aren't urgent or important enough to require immediate attention. Humans' perception of time is fascinating. Time can feel different depending on the situation. New experiences like falling in love or childhood make time feel longer. During COVID-19 lockdowns, time felt distorted because there were fewer new experiences. Awe can help us feel less impatient and more generous. It arises from vast mysteries and can be found in nature, live music, and spiritual rituals. Mindfulness and awe can help us slow down time and better manage our attention. Nature walks, for example, can elevate mood and decrease stress. Connecting with the physical world can help us determine if a piece of news is worth our attention. We have more power to choose what deserves our attention than we think. Overconfidence bias. On January 6, 1995, MacArthur Wheeler, a 44-year-old man, robbed 2 Pittsburgh banks without a mask, thinking lemon juice on his face would make him invisible to cameras. Wheeler was shocked when he got caught. This story highlights overconfidence, a trait often seen in financial scams. Overconfidence is celebrated in American culture, with sayings like, "fake it till you make it." The story of Elizabeth Holmes, who went from billionaire health tech CEO to convicted fraudster, shows how confidence can lead to success or downfall, or both. The Dunning-Kruger effect, identified by psychologist David Dunning, explains that people with little knowledge often overestimate their expertise. This effect is widely used to dismiss non-experts' opinions. However, Dunning clarified that even experts overestimate their skills, just to a lesser extent. Overconfidence bias is common. People overvalue their skills, express excessive certainty, and credit themselves for positive outcomes. Overconfidence has evolutionary benefits, enhancing resolve and bluffing abilities and leading to better survival chances. In modern society, it helps attract friends and followers and boost morale. Overconfidence can lead to fame, especially in places like Los Angeles, where aspiring entertainers treat fame like a battlefield. However, overconfidence also can be dangerous, leading to stock market crashes, medical misdiagnoses, and technological failures. In the legal system, wrongful convictions often result from overconfident judgments. Imposter syndrome, the opposite of overconfidence, is also common. People with this syndrome feel like a fraud despite evidence of their competence. Psychologist Rachel Torres studies imposter syndrome, which she experiences despite her credentials. This syndrome causes negative thinking and self-doubt, affecting many people in their professional lives. Torres and Montell are friends, and they share an obsession with the true con genre. The two had extensive discussions about Holmes, whose billion-dollar company The Ranos was a sham. Holmes might have experienced imposter syndrome but pushed past it, driven by a dream to be the next Steve Jobs. Imposter syndrome, first described in the 1970s, emerged when marginalized workers entered a labor market designed for white men. Torres notes that society isn't set up for women like Holmes to succeed as Jobs did. The media criticized Holmes for her behavior, but reactions might have differed if she were a man. Torres speculates that nearly everyone experiences imposter syndrome, even narcissists. Research suggests imposter syndrome is not a natural phenomenon, but a result of societal and systemic causes. The American labor market wasn't built for women and people of color to feel accepted. The Knowledge Illusion by Philip Fernbach and Stephen Sloman shows that people often overestimate their understanding of simple gadgets. We rely on others' knowledge, making it hard to distinguish between what we know and what others know. This feeds our overconfidence as we blend our understanding with that of the group. Our fuzzy brain boundaries can drive innovation, but we also need to acknowledge our limitations and not overfocus on ourselves. True confidence includes the ability to reevaluate and change course. Lowering our standards at least a little might reduce imposter syndrome and lead to a more peaceful life. The illusory truth effect. While researching for a podcast episode on the wedding industry, Montell found a repeated claim that medieval brides carried bouquets to mask their body odor due to infrequent bathing. She shared this on her podcast. The story went viral, but medieval historian Dr. Elena Jenga debunked it, explaining that medieval people bathed more often than believed and used flowers for their symbolism, not scent. Montell contacted Jenga to understand why myths about the Middle Ages persist. Jenga explained that the period, spanning from 476 AD to 1483, is close enough to feel familiar but distant enough to be mysterious, making it ripe for romanticization and fear. The illusory truth effect, where repeated statements are believed to be true, plays a significant role. This bias makes false information, like the origins of bridal bouquets, seem credible through repetition. Northwestern University researchers Alice Eagley and Shelley Chaikin argue that people rely on simple heuristics like familiarity when they lack the knowledge or motivation to critically evaluate information. Repetition makes information easier to absorb, leading to a false sense of accuracy. This effect is so strong that even when warned, people still fall for it. Yale psychologist Gord Pennicook found that seeing a fake news headline just once made people twice as likely to believe it. Before writing systems, oral repetition was the primary way to learn. Today, technology has democratized information, but folklore traditions persist in new forms like memes and exaggerated headlines. Folklorist Dr. Tom Mould explains that legends help us cope with cultural fears and are difficult to disprove. Proverbs offer snappy answers to life's mysteries, but when used by authority figures, they can promote one-sided ideologies. Repetition, rhyme, and easy-to-read language make information more believable. Rhyming phrases are especially persuasive because they create a predictable pattern, making the message seem more sensible. This linguistic organization makes information memorable and trustworthy, even if it's not true. Psychologist Tracy Dennis Tiwery explains that the Middle Ages marked the start of modern anxiety. In medieval Europe, people were deeply influenced by the Catholic Church and the fear of eternal damnation. As the scientific revolution began in the 1500s, people started questioning old beliefs, leading to new psychological troubles. The Enlightenment's motto, "Dare to know," created a vulnerable mind lacking medieval faith certainty. This shift led to existential angst. The mix of knowledge and anxiety pushed the West to conquer both territories and ideas. The illusory truth effect impacts both external information and internal narratives. Neuroscientist Jill Bolt Taylor's stroke experience showed that losing words can lead to a euphoric sense of oneness with our surroundings because our self-narrative disappears. Balancing awe and objectivity is challenging. Astronomer Carl Sagan and science communicator Moya McTeer have blended science and mythology to communicate complex ideas. Memorable phrasing doesn't make information more accurate, but it does become more powerful. Different scientific fields use mythology to explain concepts. This makes complex ideas more relatable and memorable, blending scientific accuracy with poetic beauty. Confirmation bias. Dinosaurs have become a source of comfort for Montell, providing a sense of awe and distraction from existential dread. Watching dinosaur videos, visiting natural history museums, and imagining baby theropods on Pangaea offer her a thrilling escape. Dinosaurs ruled Earth for 174 million years, long before humans appeared. If life is a house party, dinosaurs hosted it first, maintaining it well, unlike humans, who are now ruining it. After the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022, Montell's visit to an animatronic dinosaur exhibit provided a perfect distraction. Kristen, a new friend, invited her after seeing ads for the exhibit. They marveled at the dinosaur replicas, enjoying their lifelike movements and reading their stats. The exhibit offered a soothing break from a tough week, reminding them that tragedies are temporary. Kristen, who grew up in a conservative evangelical community, shared stories of her upbringing, where dinosaurs were believed to have lived with Adam and Eve. Fossil discoveries in the 19th century caused inerrant Christians to create explanations aligning with Genesis. Confirmation bias, the tendency to favor information that supports existing beliefs, explains why people stick to their views despite contrary evidence. Studies show that when faced with disconfirming facts, the brain's reasoning areas shut down, while emotional areas light up with confirming information. This bias affects everyone from cult followers to political extremists. Confirmation bias plays a significant role in why people stay in cults even after losing everything. This bias helps people justify their choices and live with themselves. In social scenarios, confirmation bias helps align beliefs with social reality, making it easier to connect with others. However, in political or financial situations, it can oversimplify arguments and intensify divisions. Understanding and tolerating cognitive dissonance is crucial to avoid being overwhelmed by biases. Social belonging is more valuable to humans than any belief, even the truth. Confirmation bias thrives in groups, making questioning beliefs feel like betrayal. A 1979 Stanford study showed that confronting evidence only strengthens original views. A 2011 Yale experiment found that more scientific literacy made people better at defending their beliefs. Facts rarely change minds, but self-awareness can. Declinism and negativity bias. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi noted that since the 1950s, the percentage of Americans who report being very happy has remained around 30%. Despite significant improvements in quality of life, happiness levels haven't increased. This paradox raises questions about the true value of progress. Although there have been significant improvements in poverty reduction and education, people often feel that the world is getting worse. This perception is partly due to negativity bias, which makes negative events feel more impactful. However, cognitive psychology research shows that memories of negative emotions fade faster than positive ones, leading to an idealized view of the past. Nostalgia for the past, however, offers some comfort. The term anemoia, coined by author John Koenig, describes nostalgia for a time never experienced. Ancient Greeks likely romanticized earlier eras, just as people today idealize the past. Modern culture reflects this nostalgia. Traditional wives on Instagram and Etsy's cottagecore products cater to a longing for simpler times. Nostalgia softens the harshness of past eras, making them seem more appealing. Nostalgia can also influence art and culture. Hollywood has produced numerous nostalgic reboots and reunion specials, offering comfort during turbulent times. Sociologist Tressie McMillan Cottom observes that nostalgic art often lacks political depth, providing a safe escape. Politically, nostalgia can be weaponized. Far-right movements often invoke a golden age to promote exclusionary policies. This tactic has been used by political leaders, including Hitler and Donald Trump, to rally support. Economist and philosopher Max Roser highlights that while people often believe the world is declining, data shows improvements in many areas. However, happiness levels have not increased with material wealth. Csikszentmihalyi noted that while a lack of resources contributes to unhappiness, increased material wealth does not necessarily lead to greater happiness. Freedom, though, does bring happiness. Freedom of speech, thought, and bodily autonomy generally makes people happier. Medical anthropologist James Davies explained and sedated that when society neglects people's basic needs, such as feeling safe and having meaningful work, it leads to materialism, a poor coping mechanism. Nostalgia for simpler times can inspire hope for a less consumerist future. Brain scans show that thinking about pleasant memories activates the same brain areas as daydreaming about the future. Nostalgia helps us cope with the present and prepare for the future. Nostalgia is a creative tool, turning life events into fantasies. The IKEA Effect. A therapist once suggested Montell try hands-on activities like watercolors or card tricks to stay present. Notable figures like Michelle Obama have hobbies they love. For Montell, crafting has always been a struggle. Her attempts during the 2020 lockdown, such as growing basil or pouring candles, ended in failure. This led to an obsession with homesteading influencers who seemed to excel at every DIY skill. Then, Montell discovered furniture flipping. It was perfect for someone who was anxious and not skilled at detailed crafts. Each weekend, Montell collected new items at bargain prices, restored them, and listed them on Facebook Marketplace. The goal wasn't profit, but the joy of the process. The satisfaction came from creating something, not the money. This experience exemplifies the IKEA effect, a cognitive bias where people value items they helped create more highly. This was first documented in 2011 by Harvard behavioral scientist Michael I. Norton. The effect explains why people are willing to pay more for self-assembled items and why homemakers prefer cake mixes that require adding an egg. The need to feel involved in creation has driven the DIY renaissance. DIY became popular in the mid-20th century and evolved into a significant cultural trend by the 1970s. With the rise of platforms like Pinterest and meal kit services, DIY projects became mainstream. The IKEA effect also fosters social connection. Sharing DIY projects brings more joy than showing off purchased items. The effect is seen in many aspects of life, from home improvements to personal projects. Imperfections in these creations make them unique and valuable, sparking conversation and connection. AI-generated art might soon surpass human abilities. In 2018, an AI painting sold for $432,500. Titled Edmond de Bellamy, it depicts a French gentleman in a distorted style. AI art lacks the human touch that attracts devotees. Australian musician Nick Cave doubts AI can create songs that evoke awe, as human creativity is tied to our limitations. Singer Claire L. Evans argued that AI doesn't need to pass as human to be useful. AI combined with human creativity can create amazing results. For example, using a cake mix saves time for decorating with a personal touch. Montell once asked Chat what it thought were humans and I's greatest strengths. It said I's strength is reason, while humans is love. This makes you wonder if we really have to choose between the two. Love, survival, and creating by hand are constants, even as technology changes rapidly.